Welcome to Family's Choice Electrical Repair Podcast, Community Connections. My name is Matt Wilkerson. This is my partner, Greg Steen. I want to make a comment real quick. If you're watching this live, if you could type in the comments live, or if you're watching this on replay, if you could simply type in replay so we can follow where our viewers are viewing this, that would be very helpful. But super awesome guest today. I consider him a friend.
With sound.
Do what?
With sound.
With sound. We do have sound today. This is excellent. Thank you for your patience. But yesterday, we actually went a little long yesterday. We had a lot of questions that got very interesting, and we got into it, but we really hope you enjoy this today. Ocala Police Chief Mike Balken is our guest today. Thank you for coming in again.
Always a pleasure. Thanks for having me, gentlemen. It's my honor to be here.
Busy man, but we do appreciate you taking the time to come in. We're going to go ahead and get right into it because we've got a lot of questions that are very valuable to the viewers. And if you have a question that you would like to be asked, whether it is answered right now or whether it's answered at a later time when we post this, let us know. We can get the answers for you. That is very valuable information. First things first, we talked about it yesterday. Can you briefly comment on the loss of the K-9 Marion County Sheriff's Department that suffered yesterday?
Yeah, K-9 Leo passed away after that gun battle with the sheriff's office. Horrible situation, certainly for the law enforcement community, really, Marion County, Ocala in general. I think a lot of people might assume that these are tools or a piece of equipment that we just assign out to an officer or deputy, and that couldn't be further from the truth, right? We bring these dogs on at a young age. We put a lot of time, training, effort into getting them where they need to be. They're part of the family. So this is devastating for our community, and certainly our hearts and prayers go out to the sheriff's office, certainly to Leo's handler for that tremendous loss.
Yeah, the
it's
handler
a big hit.
gets super attached. I mean, that's family.
It's part of their personal family and part of that department and the community of law enforcement. It's a member of the team, and our hearts are broken today, for sure.
Yeah, big hit.
Yep.
Yes, sir.
So speaking of that, is Ocala safe? What do you feel with our numbers, with the growth, population stuff? Are we safe in Ocala?
Yeah, that's a question that I get asked often, and it's easy for me to answer. It's a loaded question a little bit because it's all about numbers, and numbers can be massaged and all that. But here's the bottom line is our Part 1 crime numbers are down across the board yet again this year. These are preliminary reviews, but I expect our annual report, which will be out in probably next 4 weeks, will flesh that out very well for the average citizen to look at. Okay. But we're down in every category on Part 1 crimes except for homicides. We average about 8.3 homicides a year, odd number, right? We understand that one homicide is way too many to have in Ocala. We don't want to see any, but we've managed to keep that number fairly flat. That average, we had 10 last year, so that was one of the higher years, but we're at a low point, when we look back over 30, 40 years of growth. So, when I look back at the beginning of my career, even in the 80s, we were looking some years at 16, 18 homicides in a year. Right. We managed to keep them about 8 to 10. Again, one's too many, but we do a great job of identifying those potential violent criminals early and try to get them locked up and put away from society.
And you may not toot your horn enough. You say that the crimes are down. People don't even think about the fact that crimes are down and the population is increasing. So you have less officers to deal with more people on a daily basis. That's even a bigger achievement.
It's tremendous, not just for us, but I think really across the state of Florida with our population explosion that we've seen in the past few years.
Goodness,
yes. to keep those numbers flat would be a success, but to see them go down in those Part 1 categories is a home run for us. Again, our goal is to remove every criminal from our city and get them off the street and not have one crime, but to have them numbers drop. With a population that's probably right at 70,000 now is an incredible feat by the men and women that work for the Ocala Police Department. Not me, but by the boots on the ground. They do a great job day in and day out for us.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yes, they do. What is the number one challenge facing the law enforcement profession as a whole?
Yeah, I would say this. With the several years now of anti-police sentiment that came about after large incidents that took place around the country. We all know what I'm talking about. That took our field took a huge hit there with recruitment and retention. There's
Retention too.
yeah, absolutely. There's not a whole lot of I don't think a whole lot of 19, 20-year-old kids that are watching the nightly news over the last couple of years and say, yeah, I want to go get spit on while I'm trying to hold the line during a mini riot and then get sued and then get fired when I'm not supported by our leaders in the community or by the community that they're serving. So that sent a message throughout the law enforcement community. We saw mass exoduses, in New York and Seattle and Portland, all these other cities. Didn't see that here. I would argue that Ocala, Marion County is extremely supportive. Florida in general, our communities are really supportive of law enforcement. They're certainly my cops are certainly going to be supported by our city council, by our mayor, certainly by their police chief, and arguably by the vast majority of the community that we serve. So we didn't see that impact the retention, but we certainly saw a decrease in our applications, and I would say the quality of the candidates that we're seeing. So we've got to be pretty picky these days. Our idea is we're not going to lower the bar to get. We'd rather work short than work with a poor employee. So we're going to maintain our standards and still try to bring the best and brightest police officer we can to serve. So that's probably the biggest challenge right now is staffing.
Oh, really? Wow.
Absolutely.
Every time that we come in as my separate group, that we come in and feed you guys lunch,
Yes.
I have to say this. Anytime that I put a post on Facebook and I say we're thinking about doing a feeding X date for the Ocala Police Department, within 30 minutes,
Instantly.
I have an amazing list of business owners and people in general in the community who say, I want in, I want in, I want in. What can I bring? So
It's amazing.
just
to
like
watch.
you mentioned, 95% of the people, yes, you may get spit on as an officer with boots on the ground, but 95% of the people would be glad to stand right behind you and support you. So that's good. So speaking of that, if you have a comment for that, that's great. But
I'm
speaking of that, I want you to help us clear up a debate. You talked about this a little bit yesterday, but the open carry versus constitutional carry. Can you clear some of that up for somebody that just walks through the mall with a gun on their hip?
That's a bit of a problem.
Okay.
Yeah, and there was a lot of confusion about that law change that happened just a while back. So the law change on constitutional carry just allows you to carry a concealed firearm without a concealed firearms permit. That was it. That was the change. You have been for years now, several years, permitted to carry a firearm openly only when traveling to and from certain places or certain events. And those are, and I'll probably miss one, but certainly hunting, certainly fishing, going to the gun range, things like that. So you've been able to openly carry in that regard for several years now. The recent constitutional carry change just basically said, hey, you don't need to go give the state your money for a concealed weapons permit. You just simply don't need that. I would argue that it's probably still a good idea for those folks that are traveling out of state, where we have several other states that are reciprocal, and they'll recognize that concealed weapons permit in their state. So probably a good idea for those people that want to carry out of state. But even that, there's states that don't reciprocate, and you can end up in jail carrying a concealed firearm without a permit. So you got to be careful. You really need to educate yourself on what the laws are for where you're at. But that was the change. You don't have to pay for a concealed weapons permit. You can carry concealed.
So how do you control people that have had misdemeanors in the past, felonies, able to carry, not even without the license?
There's still statutory requirements that you got to meet. You can't have been diagnosed with mental health disorders and things like that are untreated that could prevent you. Don't get me wrong. Not everybody can just go out there and can carry a firearm. You still need to do your research. I'm talking about the law-abiding citizen with no criminal record. This doesn't change rules for felons, convicted felons that are not allowed to carry those firearms. So you got to be careful. But that's the big misconception, is that it's a open carry. That was not the change.
Right.
The change recently in the legislature was constitutional carry, which is says that you can carry a firearm concealed without a permit. So I hope that helps.
It does.
Clear as mud, right? Yeah.
So as far as OPD Ocala, is there any interesting programs going on or initiatives that you'd like to talk about?
Yeah, real quick. I know we're short on time. I would like to talk about some of the things that are going on with the growth in our community and some of the events that have taken place. We can talk about the mall shooting. We can talk about we had a shooting that took place last year outside the movie theater downtown.
Right.
Seeing the need for some more specialized units to be out there. The community will likely, if you've not seen them yet, you'll see them soon. We have a new bike patrol unit. That is out and about in the greater downtown area and the mall, just to give that sense of security out there. But yeah, you'll see them out traversing on their bikes, usually in the evening when we get the crowds downtown. So you'll see that. Certainly, our community outreach programs, I think, are alive and thriving. Our Polar Patrol ice cream truck. Yeah, I get laughed at by some of my contemporaries around the state,
Hey,
but
that's okay.
It works.
well, look, we recognize. I certainly recognize that there was a gap that we needed to bridge as it relates to our officers getting in front of the youth out there in the community who may not have somebody in their life that's trying to teach them what the difference between right and wrong, and giving them someone to talk to. So,
Right.
the idea of the Polar Patrol was certainly to get officers out in those communities that maybe caretakers didn't have the means or didn't care to get those kids to some of our programs that we do where they come to us. We were going to bring the cop to them, so we bring that cop with ice cream as kind of a carrot on a stick to really not to give out free ice cream, but to engage that child.
love it.
Right? That's the idea, is to bridge that gap. Let them know, hey, we're just people too. We're trying to look out for you. We want you to run to us, not away from us when bad things are happening. And we're your partners, right? We're the good guys, and we're really trying to change what the definition of cool is for some of these youth. So those programs are alive and well, doing very good. We get a lot of participation. We're reading with cops. We do a great deal of things. We're involved in Big Brothers, Big Sisters, the Boys and Girls Club. You name it, you'll see a
Great
police
programs,
officer.
by the way.
Absolutely. I'm a big brother myself, or Big Brothers. If somebody out there listening wants to get involved and truly change the potential life trajectory of a young child, Big Brothers and Big Sisters will give you that. It's a 1.5-year requirement for that community-based program that I'm involved in. It's a big undertaking.
But look what you do for that child.
Right.
You may save
Life-changing.
that child's future.
Yes.
So I would invite anybody interested to come on board with us and help a child.
I need to get involved with it.
Yeah.
You guys would be great. You guys would be great. Yes, sir.
That's awesome. So speaking of all these initiatives, are you hiring? Do you need more people to
Yeah,
take these initiatives to the next level?
Sure. We talked about that a little bit yesterday. Not only are we hiring police officers, but we're hiring 911 dispatchers, call takers. We're hiring school crossing guards. We've got a big need across the agency to fill some of these positions, both sworn and non-sworn. What's interesting, when I started my career, I worked 2 jobs to save up enough money to send myself through police academy, and then I had to fight tooth and nail for a job, and I traveled the state looking for one. Nowadays, it's a little bit different. Just about every agency in the state is hiring, so we're trying to stand out and show what we do, our uniqueness, our ability to do that community outreach and support our cops. But we still have openings. But with that said, anybody out there that wants to be a police officer, if they can get through my background investigation, we will sponsor them to go to police academy. We'll not only pay them a salary, but we will pay the entire cost of that school, all the way down to the bullets that they'll fire on the gun range. And within 6 months, they'll be a fully sworn police officer with the Ocala Police Department.
Can't beat that.
You really can't. Anybody out there that wants to be a cop, there is no excuse. We are hiring. They can reach out to us. Our website is easy to get to. It's www.ocalapd.gov. Our employment applications are right on there. It's a couple clicks away. You can fill that out, and we will have you in a police academy about the beginning of May.
Awesome. So I know we've hit you with the barrage of questions, tearing it down, but now you have the mic. Is there something you want to take a couple minutes and just get off your chest, or something you want to talk about to the citizens, and just use the mic for...
You might have to cut me off here, Greg. So tell me.
Get the button.
No. Let me say this. Something that's near and dear to me, and I've been pushing with our legislative delegation recently, is this idea that our police, our law enforcement agencies exist to chase the same career criminals over and over and over again. And we keep continuing to see them getting turned out of prison at an alarming rate. Now, I get there's some reformists out there that think, we should be restoring these people and making them great, productive members of society. But quite frankly, I've been doing this for 30 years, and there is just, basically put, there is a certain percentage of our community that needs to be locked up. I can tell you, the way Florida works, we work on a point system, a sentencing guideline score sheet. and you have to have a minimum of 45 points before you qualify for 1 day in prison. And I won't go through them. There's a list, a host of second-degree felonies that you could commit right now, and you will not qualify to see 1 day in prison.
Felonies.
You'll get diverted. You'll get
You mentioned it
probation.
yesterday. A man like myself, thankfully, I have no record. I could go to his house and shoot his house up, not injure anybody, but shoot his house up and not see a day in jail. Something is wrong.
That's
You'll get arrested. You know, the
Right.
Ocala Police Department's going to come out. They're going to throw you in jail, arrest you, but you're going to get a bond. You'll be able to bond out within
Really?
about 3 hours, but you will not qualify for a day in jail. And here's the problem: if you do reach 45
That's mind
points,
blowing.
if you do reach 45 points, there's another issue there where judges are authorized to do downward departures. And there's a myriad of reasons why they could do that, but one of those is something as simple as the defendant showed remorse. Now, I've got a problem with that because this defendant has either pled guilty or been adjudicated guilty by a jury or a judge, and I don't know of any defendant out there that's not going to show remorse if he knows that if I do, I won't go to prison.
Right.
These are problems. These are fundamental problems. It is a dollars and cents issue, and I understand that it is. Listen, public safety is expensive. Right?
Yes.
It's the biggest portion of your tax dollar in the city goes to me. But I would argue that my budget this year, $46 million to police 70,000 people roughly, is way more than what I should have to ask for. And it would not be near that high if our people weren't chasing the same people over and over and over again. Case in point, Albert Shell from the Paddock Mall shooting recently, should never have been out on the street to commit that shooting. He had been arrested for violent crime before.
Right.
He should have been in prison. Something that just happened, that little 11-year-old girl out in Texas that was killed and dumped in a river by a guy that had I haven't looked at it, but from what I've seen in the news reports, a tremendous criminal history with violent crimes. And then we sit back and we wonder, how does this happen? I don't understand. How are people getting shoved in front of subway trains in New York City? That is why. And until we get our society really and lean on our legislative delegation to force them to change us, we are going to continue to see this. And I'm going to push back and say, this is not just my problem.
Right.
We're going to catch him. But Albert Shell, we got Albert Shell from the Paddock Mall. I forget how many times he had been arrested in this county alone.
Quite a few.
Dozens,
Yeah.
I think it was. We did our job right that many times.
Yeah.
And the system failed. It failed Ocala. It failed that victim. It failed that young lady, that innocent bystander that got shot. Same with the two police officers in Orlando that got shot by a career criminal. This goes on all over the state every day. We see it. How there's not more outrage by our community. We don't want to give Chief Balken $46 million. I don't want to ask for it.
You know, you're basically asking for, you're basically using $46 million, and according to what you said yesterday, approximately 5% of the community is really what you're dealing with. So
It's
3,500 people
Right.
is costing $46 million for you to keep them under control.
You're better at math than me, Matt. But yeah, it's alarming.
Wow.
And there's nothing that kills morale quicker in a law enforcement community than these men and women that are going out day in and day out, facing the same violent career and wondering, am I going to get shot by that guy that I arrested 10 times already?
Exactly.
Where is our care and consideration for that cop? Not just the cop, but the community at large that are being victimized. My statement would be this: those that are listening that want to make a change, they need to reach out to their local legislators, meaning their state representatives, their state senators, and demand change. This is not right. I think people here in Ocala, Marion County think we live in the great state of Florida. By God, we're tough on crime. We are not Seattle. We're not Portland. We're not Philly, right? All these places that none of
Right.
us want to live in.
Sure.
But I would argue that we're not as far off as some of us think, and we can get a lot closer to them in a very quick way. I think we're traveling that way. The state just shut down a couple prison facilities just over the last couple of years.
Wow.
At a time when the population of Florida is exploding,
Yeah.
we're shutting down prison population. Now listen, I'm not a lock 'em up, throw away the key guy, but I'm telling everybody there is a certain percentage of the population that needs to be locked up, and that's
A
not only
4-page rap sheet, you belong in jail.
yeah. And again, maybe not the first time, maybe not the second time. I don't know what that number is,
Right.
but I know it's not 20.
Sure.
Like Albert Shell, right? We have
Especially
got
with
to do a better
violent
job.
crimes.
And it's not going to come from me. It's going to come from the community saying, you legislators better get this right. And it can't be left up to the Department of Corrections to figure that out. I love my brothers and sisters over there at the prisons. But that's kind of like letting the fox guard the hen house, right? You can't be permitted to come up with a score sheet that affects the entire state of Florida
Right.
when it has a direct relationship to your budget, right? How many people can you feed and supervise in a day?
Sure.
And that's why these facilities were shut down, because they couldn't pay their guards enough. I mean, this is a problem. The answer, what I know the answer is not, is to let violent people back out on the street.
Right.
That is not the answer. It never can be.
Exactly.
So I'll step off the soapbox.
No,
I
listen,
get
we
pretty
appreciate it.
animated.
No,
you know,
we
it's
appreciate
something.
it. We need to know.
You see it every day.
I
You see it
do.
every day.
I mean, as citizens in Ocala, we're like, well, why is there continuing crime? There's the answer.
That is the
That's the
answer.
answer.
And if you want to make that change, call Tallahassee to enforce them to make the change.
I want to change gears here and go off script.
Okay.
My last question I'm going to scrap, and the reason is you got really passionate about this yesterday too, and I think it's crucial. We brought up the topic fentanyl. There are programs in Marion County for somebody who is struggling from any type of drug abuse issue that they have help. All they have to do is walk up to an officer and they get help, turn in their drugs and get help. Can you describe that?
Yeah, the Ocala Police Department Amnesty Program was brought about several years ago by my predecessor, great friend, Chief Greg Graham, as a way to get folks that were suffering from addiction to come forward without fear of us making an arrest. We would, the amnesty is just what it is. We're going to take those drugs. We're going to take your paraphernalia that's typically a chargeable offense. We're going to throw that in recovered property and destroy it. We're going to transport you to a treatment
With no
facility
charges.
with no charges to a treatment facility to get you help, right?
Wow.
You know, generally we're going to transport you out to SMA Hospital and or now Beacon Point. I got to say, the Marion County Hospital District and their staff, they have been great partners at not only supporting the Greg Graham Legacy Foundation, the Amnesty Program, but building up Beacon Point, which is right over on MLK 717 Southwest Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard. They take walk-ups. If you don't want to deal with us as a police officer, maybe you don't trust us, maybe you're a little nervous, you can drive there, walk there, pedal a bike, walk in, and they'll take walk-ups and get you help. They have inpatient treatment, outpatient treatment, medication-assisted treatment, so you're not suffering those withdrawals as bad. There is absolutely no reason in Marion County why someone should overdose on opiates. We're losing folks at an alarming rate. I think last year, 112,000 people across the state. Alarming numbers. And this stuff, this fentanyl is so pervasive. It's in just about every drug that we're seizing now. I don't care if it's marijuana. We're seeing marijuana laced with that. We're seeing counterfeit pills that you know, some kid might think, hey, that's mom's hydrocodone. Looks just like it. They get on the street and they're dead after one pill. It is extremely lethal. You know, think a few grains of salt, right? What that looks like, that's enough fentanyl to kill you. That is an overdose amount, and extremely deadly, pouring across this porous border with Mexico. And not to get political, I don't care where you stand, but all I know is precursors to being shipped into Mexico by China. The cartels cooking this stuff up and openly shipping it across our border by air, bus, freight,
big money for
car, people on foot, you name it, bicycles. It's coming across every way. And for us to combat that at our level, at local law enforcement, it's like drinking out of a fire hydrant. It's impossible to do. But there's no reason why you can't reach out for help. You can walk up to any police officer in this city. You can go to SMA Hospital. You can go to Beacon Point. You can go to findtreatment.gov. I'll repeat that for those listeners. Findtreatment.gov. You type in Ocala, it will list out every service care provider we have in this county where you can get help for your addiction. It's that simple. We should not be having overdoses at the rate we're
For
seeing.
someone that says that they can't afford to get treatment, is there options for people that
There is, and I would argue that Beacon Point is a great place to start because that is funded well by the hospital district, and there is free treatment available. And if they can't get you in there, they will find you a place that matches.
So there's no reason not to get help.
That matches your economic level. You know, a lot of these things you'll find at findtreatment.gov. They'll indicate what insurance carriers will take. There's opportunity for everybody. I don't care if you're dirt poor, sleeping under an overpass today, or if you're working at City Hall, you can get help. There's people there that want to help you, that want to see you succeed, want to see you get your life turned around before you die, and people are dropping dead at an alarming rate. This is an epidemic. It is an epidemic of proportions that we've not seen. I think I'm trying to remember these numbers that the Attorney General gave in our press conference. I think she threw out a number. We lost 3,000 people in 1 year back several years ago
Statewide?
from statewide from overdoses, compared to 112,000 I think at 21, 22.
Holy cow.
That's the number. 3,000 to over 100,000. That's the difference. That's how deadly this fentanyl is. So, for those people listening, if you know somebody, love somebody, if it's you, you need help, reach out. Call me directly. Reach out to the Ocala Police. We'll send an officer to you. There's no reason why you shouldn't be getting treatment tomorrow.
Oh, so
today.
you actually send an officer to help
We'll
you?
send you to your. We'll send the officer to your
Wow.
house, pick you up, and take you.
Wow.
It's that easy.
The excuse is gone.
There's no
There is
reason.
no excuse
No
other
reason.
than you're just not ready to get help yet. And unfortunately, tomorrow might be too late for you.
Right.
There's no other way to put it. These people don't think they're going to die when they're sticking a needle in their
Right.
arm, but we see it every week. We see it every week. So
Thank you for taking the time to come out here again. And
Very great information
Very
for
valuable
Ocala.
information. I'm telling you, if you want to make a difference in this community and you want to serve on the police department, OcalaPD.gov. That's their website. You can reach out to them, get past the background check, which they want to have sound officers, but you can make a difference in this community. And then secondly, just like he mentioned, if you have a drug issue, there is no excuse not to get help. You can walk up to an officer without fear of going to jail or being charged. You simply turn in your contraband. They will get you help free of charge. No excuse. Reach out to them. They will be glad to help you. I thank you for watching. This is, again, Community Connections podcast brought to you by Family's Choice Electrical Repair. We thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.